I love making my own Comfrey infused oils. I love them for my medicines as well as for my face creams and my hand lotions. And I'm going to show you just how easy it is to make your own from home. Ideally, you want to be making a cold infusion using dried herbs. And what that means is you're not going to heat up the oil. And the dried herbs obviously will not have as much water that resists oil, and it'll be a lot easier for the oil to access all the medicinal goodness and all of those nutrients that are in the comfrey herb. So start with dried herbs. If you're drying your own at home, make sure you give them about a week or two to hang dry. If you have a dehydrator, you can go faster, but you want to make sure those are bone dry. Then simply crush it up. Now, if you already got dried herbs, say from Amazon or from your local herb store, go ahead and give them a little extra crush because it allows the oil to have access to more surface area on the herb, which will allow it to pull out more of the nutrients, which is what we want. Now, crushing comfrey by hand can actually be a little bit itchy because of the hairs that are on the comfrey herb. So if you didn't buy it already crushed, then I would recommend doing the big crushing by hand, but doing all the small crushing with a mortar and pestle. It's just a lot easier that way. And if you want to wear gloves too, that's okay. Nobody's judging. Now, once the comfrey is crushed, put it into a mason jar. I am using a 16 ounce or a pint size jar here, and I am going to fill it halfway. Now, that means I have about a cup of dried herbs. I am not going to pack them down. They need to have breathing room around it so that the oil can actually get around the entire herb. So I'm going to fill this jar halfway, up to 3/4 of the way full of this comfrey herb. And once you fill it halfway to 3/4 of the way, you're going to fill the rest of it with oil. In general, you want about an inch of oil at the top to make sure that the herbs are entirely covered. Then it's time to add your oil. I like to use olive oil, but there are lots of different good oils that you can use. You'll notice that it starts bubbling as the air underneath all the comfrey starts to come up to the top. I take that as my cue to stop and stir it for a little bit. Make sure that all those air bubbles are gone and make sure that the oil is covering every side of that herb. And then once all those air bubbles are gone, I will top it off with a little bit extra oil, making sure that I filled it pretty much all the way to the top. Then it's time to cover it and let the cold oil do its thing. Make sure that you label it. I like to label what's in there as well as the date to make sure I don't mix up my oils. And then every day, try to give it a shake so they don't settle too much. And that will ensure that the oil has plenty of surface area to contact the comfrey and pull out all of its nutritional value. Then you can either store it in a dark cabinet, or you can store it on a warm windowsill and let the sun kind of heat up the oil. Or you can do what I do and just set it on the counter next to all the other stuff that you gotta shake so that you can remember to shake them every day. And I think this is the hardest part because you're gonna let it sit for about 4 to 6 weeks, and remembering is a little bit of a trick. So set an alarm or shake it every time you brush your teeth or something. Try to do something that helps you remember to go and shake those jars. Then after your 4 to 6 weeks, it's time to strain the herbs out. Now, I typically like to use a cheesecloth or a tea towel or a flour sack towel because I feel like the oil goes through a lot faster than it does with a coffee filter. But I was out of cheesecloth and I didn't have any tea towels on hand. So this was the method that I went with. And actually, it's really good at straining out all the small particles of the dried herbs. Now, as the oil strains through, it'll make room for you to pour more oil through. And eventually, you will have clumps of this herb getting into the coffee filter. And so sometimes I have to use 2 or 3 different coffee filters in order to get through the entire jar of oil. And I always try to squeeze the coffee filters, but it never really works. It's not like a tea bag. It's not like the cheesecloth. It just really gets all over my hand instead of into the jar. So it's really better to just let time do its thing, pull all of the oil through the filter, and then just replace the filter with a fresh one if you still have more herbs to strain out. Once that's done, it is now time to bottle it or to put it to good use in your medicines or in your creams. Now, if you're looking to store this long term, you're going to want to use it within a year, and I would put it in an amber glass bottle or at least in a dark cabinet, so it'll protect it from the UV rays and losing any of its medicinal value. This is a great oil that I like to use in my salves, and I've got a video on that right here if you want to watch that. Now, there have been times when I needed this in a hurry, and in that case, I did not use dried herbs, and I also did not use the cold method. I did the hot method with fresh herbs, and I'm going to be putting out a video on that here soon. So if you want to see how I did that, subscribe so you don't miss that video, and I'll see you on the next Desert Forest Garden adventure. Thanks for watching.